Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stewart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, welcome to tonight's show. We have kind of a flash update. There appears to be some military movement. We're going to get into that first over in Ukraine, and this could be war. I think Russia has decided that when they attempted Ukraine and NATO, and I'm sure the USA was involved in it as well, decided they wanted to blow that bridge. That would irritate Putin to a high degree. And he may have decided now that he's going to invade. It's hard to tell what's coming next. An awful lot of things are going on. Hi, Larry. How are you doing?
Hey, Stewart. I'm just polishing up my night vision equipment.
I tell you what, things are moving fairly rapidly. We've got the Democrats, of course, demanding that the United Nations escort immigrants across the border. We have the UN Global Compact, the United Nations attempted takeover, the fourth beast of Daniel rising. We have heavily armed Central American paramilitary troops crossing U.S. borders in remote locations, which, of course, I think a lot of this is the stuff on California is just a diversion, so nobody's thinking about the 2,000-mile border we have. Anyway, let's get to this thing from Hal Turner, which appears to be accurate as usual. I'll read the headline. Maybe you can pick up on what it is. Breaking: Russia moves 500 military aircraft, 340 military helicopters to the Ukraine border. Now, he's also moving a mass of troops, is he not? Larry, what's the latest on that?
Yeah, the latest report on that is, I'll just read some information here. It says Russia massing forces along Russian border in Ukraine. Russian battalion tactical groups on alert. And also there's a report that Poroshenko has talked with Pompeo and that the U.S. Secretary of State has pledged full assistance, including military assistance, to the Ukraine against Russia. Now, also, on top of that, there's now a U.S. Air Force Global Hawk drone and the U.S. Navy Poseidon over the Black Sea monitoring not only Crimea, the area of the bridge and that region, but also Ukraine and Russian movements at this time. There is a report that in intelligence stating that all military leadership in Russia have been called to Moscow to meet with Putin, and Hal Turner says this is a real big deal. So, we've got that, and then, also there's reports, if true, that over 40 military groups, that includes ground forces, have been activated in the southern district, the Russian Federation, and moving possibly towards the Ukraine border. And this is a big deal. Now, what's interesting is there's some intelligence in there you can't read, but it appears that previous Russian military movements for the last few months has prepositioned a lot of, I guess you could say, offensive equipment, including missile systems, etc., already in that area. It's already there. You remember when the Chinese were working with the Russians and moving a lot of stuff? The stuff is already there. And it appears that this act, which of course, we hadn't read the information yet, and I'll let you do that on the device, but you mentioned it last night, and there's more on it tonight coming out.
Yeah, it says as of late Tuesday, about 500 tactical aircraft, combat aircraft, 340 helicopters have been massed along the border of Ukraine. Yesterday, Ukraine implemented martial law in its provinces that were bordering Russia. claiming they have intel that Russia plans an invasion. Ukraine may be correct. As of 7/19, panic buying has begun in local supermarkets near the Kherson as martial law comes into full effect. Buckwheat, matches, salt are purchased in large quantities. Some shortages have been reported. We've been telling people, if you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs and we get into a situation here, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So at least get your buying done. This thing could break out anytime. Then he goes into the naval battle that occurred. And what's interesting here is the device. The incident at the Kerch Strait prevented low-yield NATO nuke from destroying the Kerch Bridge. So there you go. And I believe that report that came out of Russia and was scrubbed off TV is probably accurate. It said that they had been tracking this device. Russia would not do what it did. I mean, you talk about overkill over some little dispute. This was not a little dispute. They were going to blow up the bridge. And I believe Putin has now maybe decided he's had enough. And he has warned NATO and he has warned the United States, don't get involved. And as I've said many, many times, and I think Larry probably agrees, Putin is not the one you want to be fooling with. He's extremely intelligent. And he's probably the best military chess player we have in the world scene today. He's outsmarted a number of things already, and I think that's just going to continue. What do you think, Larry? What do you really think is going to happen here? I mean, you know, when you have all those troops, the logistics behind it is heavy. Takes a lot of time, so they must have had this ready to go.
Yeah, well, you know, we do know, if this report's true, that Putin had intelligence information about this device and was set up watching it apparently come in. And let me read just a little bit out of covert intel from Hal Turner.
Yes.
You know, we can't confirm all of it, but if it's true, it would make sense. You know, we recently had the nuclear threat towards the UK, and everybody leaves the UK out of being involved in this. But let me read this information and I'd like to get your opinion. It says, covert intel, incident at Kerch Strait stopped a low-yield NATO UK nuclear weapon from destroying the Kerch Bridge. Covert intelligence buzzing with the word that a special atomic demolition, SADM, device, a diver deployable device, was being transported by Ukrainian and British special forces to the Kerch Strait to be used against the Crimean Bridge. Report says as Russians approached, Ukrainians threw device into water. Russia is searching, and from the intelligence, the deep intelligence that I'm receiving on that is that Russia has subs there, they've got divers there, aircraft. They are really going after finding this device. And what's interesting is we know that, these Ukrainian and British special forces apparently did not get away. They didn't escape. They were surrounded and
captured.
Gunfire was erupted both directions, and they were put in custody and brought in with their ships. Now, Stewart, I heard a Fox News alert late this evening that said that information was that these prisoners were indeed talking, and it looks like they were reading from a transcript-type device and giving information. So if Russia literally has British special forces and Ukrainian special forces in custody, this is going to be a real big deal.
Yeah, we can only hope and pray, folks, that cool heads prevail and this does not spark war. However, Trump has now pledged full support. That brings the United States in to Ukraine. So here we go. If Russia decides to invade, and they may well do that, and after this event, I guess they probably have some justification for doing it. This was a stupid move on the part of the UK NATO operations that were doing this, and this can erupt. Anyway, it is what it is, and we just have to give you an update when we get more news. The other thing that's going on is we have intelligence that is saying that we have a whole bunch of armed paramilitaries crossing our borders in other areas. Now, everybody's centered on California. This is a classic war trick. You set up where everybody's attention is on this one area, and meanwhile, they're coming across the border. You know, we have like a 2,000-mile border. Many places where they can come across. So this is going to be a show and tell for Donald Trump as to what he does. And we also have Democrats now screaming bloody murder that the UN has to escort these people across the border. And, you know, they've got this new global compact for migration. This is a UN document, and they're claiming that immigrants the world over have a right to go anywhere they want. No borders, no sovereignty of nations. And if you criticize it, you are a criminal and you are up for arrest. This is the fourth beast of Daniel rising up. It seems odd to me, Larry, we've got all this stuff going on everywhere, just about, where things are coming unglued. Anything else before we shut off that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say that people can check Dave Hodges' website. Also on the internet, he's got a report on those heavily armed Central American paramilitary troops crossing into the U.S. armed. And also he's reporting that the information about the Russian equipment, Russian tanks in Mexico really was a beginning of a false flag against Russia, and is saying that everybody better be prepared because there will be a Russian false flag that's simply looming in our future very near.
Well, the timing is about right. Like I've said before, we're at the end of the timelines, and many of them, and we're in the November, December area. Hanukkah is coming up. And so they may do something on Hanukkah. I don't know what's going on in Israel. I guess that's pretty quiet. However, the Russians have been nailing some Syrian in Idlib, I guess, a rogue U.S.-led terrorists. Why we're doing that, I have no idea. America, according to the Bible, the leaders of America are basically crazy. And they do get us involved in a huge war, and we lose. That's what I said, that our leaders, deep state, really ought to read their Bibles, because it's the Soviets that will take us out, and it's not going to be pleasant when it occurs. I'll get into that sometime with Ezekiel 38:39 and explain why I say what I say. Anyway, thanks a lot, Larry, for coming on, and if we hear of any major update, we'll just come back to our website, Lakegate Blogger, Night Shadows Radio, or Larry's website, or Hal Turner's website for that matter, World News with Hal Turner. A lot going on all over the world, and the intel gives us at least some warning. Some of it we can vet, some of it we can't. Anyway, thanks a lot, Larry, for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We just wanted to give you an update. Things are getting hot over there, and we don't know when it'll explode or if cool heads will prevail. Anyway, good night, take it easy, and heads up.